Our next speaker is Sara Feldman, and she's speaking about computer access options for individuals with ALS. Please welcome Sara.
Hi, my name is Sara Feldman. I'm the physical therapist and assistive technologies professional at the MDA ALS Center of Hope at Drexel University College of Medicine in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And today I'm going to be talking about computer access options for individuals with ALS and MND. And what I'm hoping today is what you'll take away from this lecture is that you'll be able to identify some difficulties that people with ALS MND have with computer access. You'll get some ideas about what some of the options are available. And what I'd really like is for everyone, when you learn some of these things, there are some options that are available within your own computers, maybe one you have personally, maybe one you have at work. And I'd love for you to go back and just try and find those on your own. So I really want you to get something out of this, something really useful that you can use. What do I mean by computer access? Because that's kind of a big question sometimes. Well, if you guys are using computers, you're typing on the standard keyboard, you're using the standard mouse, that interface between you and the computer, that's what I'm referring to as computer access. How are you accessing that? Usually, we're using just our hands on a standard keyboard, a mouse, or people are now familiar with virtual keyboards, right, that come on iPads. So that's also the standard way. But what happens if you have difficulty using your hands? What happens if you're having difficulty lifting your hands up or using your fingers? What are your options then? So that's what I'm going to discuss today, and has already been mentioned today. Several people have said one of the issues with people with ALS MND is that this changes over time. And that's one reason why I feel like it's so important to have a lot of this knowledge so you're able to follow up with people. So there's going to be difficulty using the standard keyboard. That's what people usually start with. Difficulty using a standard mouse. And then progresses to difficulty with both. In all these different sections, I'm going to try and give you some options that are available in your computer itself, some kind of external supports, and then some of the higher techie virtual things. I'm hoping this will kind of take off some of that fear that people have about technology, some of those, I don't know anything about computers. I'm a physical therapist, not a computer scientist, so you're going to get it from my perspective, which is going to be a lot of the same perspectives as hopefully yours are. So let's begin with what's in the system itself. Everyone's computer comes with, if it's coming with the operating systems of Windows or on a Mac, it comes with accessibility features. This is Windows XP, which we still have at work, so that's why you're still getting the old version. If you go to the Start menu, you go to Programs. In the Accessories, there is an accessibility place. If you go to that, you'll actually open up an accessibility wizard, which is a wizard is one of those programs that walks you through how to make these different changes. And that's what it looks like open. If you're having difficulty with the keyboard or mouse, you tick off that you have difficulty using the keyboard or mouse, and then it moves you forward through what your options are. Once you've enabled this on your computer, you don't have to keep going in and doing this every single time. This is what it looks like in the newer, fancier version of Windows. And that's called the Ease of Access Center. And again, it's very similar. You just go in and you'll find these. And on Mac, it's called Universal Access. So you go into the Universal Access. In the System Preferences, you go into Universal Access. So those are how you might set up some of the initial changes in your operating system. So now let's specifically go to the person who has difficulty using their standard keyboard. What are some of the options? Within the operating system, you have StickyKeys, and then I'll talk about some external supports and then alternative keyboards. I'm going to have some information on the slides that I'm not going to talk about because, as Rod mentioned, this is going to be available later, so that if I don't say everything that's on the slide, I tried to put websites and prices on each slide. It bothered my OCD a little bit to see it up there, but it's going to be there then later for everyone to have. StickyKeys is a program that if you have difficulty holding one key and then typing the next one, this will hold it down for you. So once you've enabled StickyKeys, if you need to write a capital, you hit Shift, and then you hit the next key, and it holds it down for you, so you don't have to use both hands. It works for all the function keys then. And this is, again, I just showed you how you find it in all the different operating systems. Here it is in Windows, and again, it's in universal access on the Mac. The next step, say you've enabled StickyKeys for somebody, is maybe they need arm support. So a lower tech kind of thing where you actually support the arm. This clamps onto the desk. You can put your arm on it and move your hand around to access the keyboard. And these are orthotics commonly used by our occupational therapists to help somebody type if they can't use their hands on the keyboard. And then there are several alternative keyboards that are available. Within Windows and within Macs, they have keyboards, and then there's free downloadable ones. This is what the on-screen keyboard looks like in Microsoft in the older and newer versions. In the Mac, it's in System Preferences. You go to the input sources, and you choose, you go to Language and Text in the System Preferences and choose the keyboard viewer. And these are just some free on-screen keyboards that you can download from websites. This is another one. It's a little bit unique. It's called Dasher, and if you go to their website, you can play with it. I didn't want to add a video in here because there's so much information. But it shows basically the alphabet shows up, and as you move the mouse at the letters, they stream towards you, and you pick out the ones you want. If you're having difficulty with a mouse cursor, you can change within the system. So this is the next step. Now you can change within the system itself. There's alternative ones. Here it is set up. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Sometimes just recommending to someone that they use an alternative mouse is enough. So I have them check out different mouse options. Head mouse is the next step up if somebody's having difficulty accessing a regular mouse with their hand. Head mouse options are fantastic. They are a little bit more difficult to control, but people can use them very nicely. The one gentleman, they use a reflective dot on their head and move, and the sensor reads it. Now, they also have free ones. They're not as precise as the commercial ones. However, if you add the reflective dot, it does increase the how precise it is. You can use your power wheelchair to access the computer. This is a little difficult. It needs to be set up by the vendor, but it is doable. That's the advantage, is that the person's usually in the wheelchair when they use it. The disadvantage, you actually have to choose that mode then to go in. And this is what it looks like. Some cool things, you can have a mouse app on your smartphone that you can then control your computer. You just link them up together. This works well for somebody who has the proximal arm weakness but still has good hand function. If that's not, maybe you don't see that with somebody with the ALS, but maybe adults with muscular dystrophies. Then there's virtual mouse that, like a line will go across on the vertical axis and then the horizontal axis, and when it gets to where you want it, you stop it with a switch. If you're having difficulty then with the mouse click, so now you've gotten everything where you want it, but you can't actually do the click, there are some options. Again, these are the 3 areas. Here's within the system itself, you can change it. You can add a switch. Switches are a great option. A lot of people I know are already familiar with what switches are. They're just an alternative access, so you can press something. It doesn't take as much pressure to switch it. You cannot plug these, though, directly into your computer, so you need to have a switch interface, and that's just something that you would then put the switch into that, and then that attaches to the computer. And again, so a scanning's, there's two different ways you can use a switch. You can move the mouse to where you want, then you're going to directly select it, or you're going to have some other way of having the mouse go where you want it, and then you'll scan across, which isn't direct selection. Then there's some no-click, so if you can't do the click, you can set it up so that wherever you move the cursor on the screen, it will then click for you. And these are within the systems themselves, and the point and click is a free download. Dwell Click is an app on the Mac, and it's really kind of cool. I have that for myself. So those are the three areas. In general, like I said, I wanted to talk about the system themselves and the external supports that can help, and then some of the higher tech things. And then the next step is to get a whole system, so using voice activation or eye gaze. And so these would be able to do everything for you. So it's going to move, you're going to have the keyboard and the mouse. These are some of the voice activation. I would say a few years ago, actually like 10 years ago, I didn't really recommend it that much for people. But now that the price has gone down, and now that they have it within some of the systems, I say it's worth a try. And this is a Dragon Naturally Speaking. You would say, for example, start, and then to move the mouse grid breaks the screen up into 9 different boxes, and then you choose each one, like then you would say which one you want it. And this is within Windows and within Mac, where you find it. And then there's eye tracking. I think the next one is on eye tracking, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but that's the next step up. And this would be a system where it would read where your eyes are moving, and the cursor will move on the screen then. That's would show, like that's how you move the cursor basically, is with your eyes. These are great, they're fantastic. You just have to think a little bit about the fact that your eyes are now multitasking. You are looking around the screen to see what you want. You are then choosing what you want, and then you are clicking on what you want. So you're doing everything with your eyes, so they can be fatiguing. The other thing I know there's a lot of different countries, so there's a lot of different funding, but in the United States, a lot of these things are pretty much only covered by insurance if they have anything to do with communication. They're not, computer access by itself is not covered by insurance. And this is one that it can attach to your own computer. So those are things that you can use on a regular computer. I hope that that's helpful, at least to give you an idea of where to start and where to look at things. I didn't want to leave out some of these new tablet ideas and iPad access. Are great, as everyone was saying. People love them. But there are significant issues with people with ALS because you need to be able to touch the screen in order to access the different features. So what are some options that people can use then if they want to keep using their iPad? So you can adapt just a regular glove and cut out one finger so that that's the only thing that then is going to touch the screen and make it active. You can use the fancy gloves that you can buy to use your iPhones out in the cold. You can use a stylus adapted, or you can use a switch. Now the thing with the switch is the switches don't work. You can't turn on your iPad and then access the home screen and go to where you want on an iPad with a switch. You need to open up a program that already is a switch adapted, and then you can use a switch within that program. So that's one of the issues with iPads. So just to kind of put it all together before the hammering starts. As you know, we try and do is we start with maybe sticky keys. As you know, people don't want to, if somebody comes into me and says, I'm having difficulty using this standard keyboard, I don't say, well, fantastic, I have an eye gaze system for you. Let's get that. You know, so we start with trying to modify things, try to work with what they can do. People want to use their own computers. They don't want to look different a lot of times when they're just having initial difficulties. So that's what we try and do. We just try to march through. Let's try this. The next thing. I have some examples in there. You guys can read them. I just want to say the other piece that works really well for us is we have a multidisciplinary team clinic, so we can follow the people that we see and ask them questions and see every time I see them, I ask them how they're doing with their computer and what their access is and if they're having any issues. So not everyone does have that, so this will be available for people to look at later, but for us that works really well. And yesterday, somebody said in one of the presentations, Kathy Mitchell said something along the lines of she couldn't do everything, but she wanted to do at least something. And that's what got me started in the computer access. People would come into the clinic and say, I've stopped using my computer because I can't use my hands. But since then, what's propelled me is the fact that they want to know more things. They come in with their iPad and they say, what can I do with this? Or they want to keep learning more technology. So that's really what's pushed us forward. Questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Obviously, I now need my phone implanted and a reflective dot in the forehead. Questions?
That was really even very interesting for those of us who aren't physical therapists.
Sorry, could you speak right into the microphone?
Yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to ask you about your opinion of the Android tablets versus the iPad in terms of the USB port and it expanding the opportunity and options. Some people are going towards that.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I'm really glad you asked it. She's not a plant. Because I didn't have time to put it into my presentation. But from what I've seen from all these new ones coming out, because really, quite frankly, I can't keep up with all of them, is that because the other tablets accept a USB port, you can use the switches and you can use the alternative accesses on those types of tablets versus the iPad. There's even a modifier for the micro USB that you can, micro USB.
Any
I'm
other
looking
questions?
forward to learning more.
Sorry.
Hi, I was just wondering, I usually recommend most of my patients get familiar with the speech software before they have to use the eye gaze, but I know
I really can't understand what you're saying. I can't hear it.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I recommend that most of my patients start using the Dynavox software or something of the like so that they can start practicing and at least know where everything is once they graduate to an eye gaze. But it's not Mac compatible. And so I'm wondering if you know any software that they can use to do something similar if they have a Mac.
You mean that would be compatible with a Dynavox specifically?
Well, it's a Dynavox software that they can put on their normal PC so they can practice where everything is or will be on the eye gaze.
I don't, but you can run Parallels. You can run some Mac. You can run some Windows programs on a Mac if you get a specific program like Parallels that will help you do that. I don't know if that will work, but Dynavox is here. We might want to ask them. But good question. And Donna, our speech-language pathologist, is here too, so maybe we'll look into that together.
One last question anywhere? No? Well, please join with me in thanking Sarah.